I'm in the area of Snail's Beach, and I thought I'd come and just go down to the sea. Not that you can see much of the sea. I came out this morning and it was beautiful weather. Now look at it, the sky's disappeared. But hopefully you can see the sea. Snail's Beach. And I'm here to think about a book that really appeals to me. It's about naval language, and I received it, and I thought this is something to talk about, and therefore I'm at the sea. So the tide's out, and normally this is a beautiful place, very safe for children, because you think it's a lake, but it's not, it's the sea. But not on a strange day like today, weather-wise. This is the book I was talking about. Gerald O'Driscoll, A Dictionary of Naval Slang. By the way, you'll probably hear a bike next one along. It's down a little jitty little lane. Spring has arrived and people are out and about. It's warm weather. Of course, being in the Navy, I was used to a certain amount of naval slang, but it turns out I hardly know any of the words in here. It just shows you how things change even with naval words. And that's because Gerald O'Driscoll was of a different era of the Navy, primarily from the 1920s, I believe, until the Second World War. He's Irish. He was Irish. He's also a humorist. There's a lot of humour in here. And he wrote The Musings of a Merry Matlow, 1927. And this dictionary came out at the height of the Second World War. Probably a bit of a morale booster, a bit of a laugh. As you can see. And some of the words I do recognise from my own time, but some I don't. So dobying, it's the operation of washing clothes, and I think originally that word doby came from the time of the British Raj. So the John Company, the East India Company, had its own naval force, actually massive, in the age of sail, and it was an Indian word that they had obviously come to know in that area, and it had spread because of the use by sailors throughout the fleet. But a lot of the stuff here comes from the era of ships itself fast fading. Balefin, I've never come across. It's stinking or sweaty. The inside of a submarine most of the time, especially when submerged for more than a week. For all I know, the modern submarine fleet may use that. Dogs, I was aware of. So the dog watches were between 1600 and 2000, 4 and 8 o'clock. 2 hours, and they were done because you would do 4-hour watches. There'll be the morning watch from 8 until 12. That's the forenoon. The forenoon watch from 8 till 12. The afternoon watch 12 till 4. Then the 2 dog watches, and so on. And it was done to make sure that you didn't keep repeating certain watches every day. Why the dog watches? Because supposedly the star Sirius, the dog star, appeared at that time. Dog watches. Scran. It's all the food in the Navy. And again, it's a word I'm used to. Wet drinks. This is a great one here. Shit on a raft is kidneys on fried bread. But there you go. So they're actually quite humorous words. And anyone who is ex-Navy or has an interest in language and slang especially, because why do we have certain words like this? The Royal Navy, or any Navy, in the age of sail, had to put things to sea that were unlike anything you would find on land. So it required its own terminology for the ropes, for the masts, the yards, and so on. you've got the beakhead and the head where the toilets were, so the heads of the toilets. So when you started to speak those words and then you happened to find yourself ashore, old sailors were probably using a language that set them aside from anybody else, and that continued throughout the whole length of naval history. For Britain especially, being an island nation, when the Royal Navy became the supreme naval force in the world for almost 2 centuries, the flow of words into the normal vernacular, the language, was bound to happen because so many people were involved with the sea and so many people got pressed or joined. And afterwards, back in civilian life, they would have took the words with them. So when I grew up, 3 sheets to the wind was quite common. Meant you were drunk, all above board and so on. So some of the words were definitely not just naval, they became standard phrases, although they're now fast disappearing. But navvy, navigation officer, I kind of may have used that in my time, I don't remember it. The new, well, thinking about it, it's obvious, it's Edinburgh. Obviously, and this is what O'Driscoll says, obviously the Scottish colloquialism signifying the immediate present, the now, impressed naval men as worthy of a place in their lingo. So I love this kind of stuff, and this was given to me by a mate of mine who I served in the Navy with on HMS Charybdis. He also lives here in New Zealand, but he's currently in the UK visiting his folks, and he visited HMS Belfast, which is the museum in the Thames, moored alongside, and obviously got the shop, and he sent me this. There'll be similar, no doubt, books for people in the Army, the Air Force, any endeavour that, groups of people had to learn a language and would use it day by day. And it became second nature. So even now, when I'm speaking to people, I'm thinking, oh, am I adrift? Am I late? I'll ask someone, where you based? Where you from? Things like that. So it's a wonderful book just for myself to dip into, but also just to see what other people have written. And again, I said it's slightly out of date. So Stormtrooper is no longer current or has any currency. And it says here, before the Second World War, the term applied to a short serviceman in the Navy and the manner in which a number of them made a headlong dive at mealtimes earned for them this obstreperous nickname. Obstreperous, that's a wonderful word. So it's definitely, I love these kind of books, and no doubt I'm going to refer to this quite regularly. And just on the back, they've chosen a few words. Clampy. What's that mean? Well, it's a nickname for the owner of very large feet. Gutskrieg, a pain in the stomach. Play on Blitzkrieg, I think. Rum fiend, as the term implies, a man who is a glutton for rum. They got rid of the rum tot by the time I joined the Navy, went out in the early 70s, although here in New Zealand they still had it until the 1990s. Scaly back, a veteran, one who has been too long in the Navy. Tin eye, nickname given to anyone who sports a monocle. A monocle? That's showing the age of this now. And wallflower, scathing reference to any ship which remains moored to a dockyard wall for a prolonged period. Wonderful. Just the lovely play on words. So again, if you're probably not Navy, it may not appeal, but if you are, or you're interested in language, and this, I've mentioned this before, one of my favourite books. Some of the phrases in here that we're sadly lost are just wonderful. On the binge. Well, that's spending far too much money. So naval language. Wonderful book. Just wanted to share it with you. Thanks for listening.